Okay, in the spirit of keeping us on time, I'm going to get started. So welcome back, everybody. I hope you had a chance to see some posters and have some nice discussions. So as some of you know, just before Helene Langevin was recruited to serve as the Osher director back in 2012, one of our deans at the Harvard Medical School, David Galan, had this brilliant idea of transforming a more centralized structure at the time, the Osher Center, into a center without walls. And the premise behind this shift to a kind of a virtual institute was to decentralize the program and help break down silos, not only between integrative and conventional medicine, but between multiple integrative medicine centers across the Harvard Medical School landscape that virtually had very little communication with each other. And the idea was that if we can bring this network a little bit more together, we can enhance a lot more collaboration and synergy. And to support this transition at the time, I began what was the first audit of all the integrative medicine research going on across the different institutes at the Harvard Medical School and in the Boston area. And to my surprise, there was a great deal of things going on that I didn't even know about, and I had been here for more than 10 years at the time. And some of these were even led by my close colleagues. So as Helene was onboarding, I started to share this sort of map of research that was going on, and she had the brilliant idea of creating a visual map of this collaboration. Along with what now sounds like a Cohen, which is, well, here's our map, one of our research maps. And the Cohen is what would happen to a network or a community when it becomes aware of itself by mapping it and seeing where you fit into some larger constellation. So to help manage this, this idea, this data, and create a virtual map or an integrated map, which you can see, Helene solicited the help of one of her colleagues and a digital communication guru, David King, who's the founder and the CEO of Exaptive, Inc. And Dave and his team has done a remarkable job building not only our research map, which he's going to show you, but also a series of other maps, a clinical map and some other newer ones that he's going to demonstrate with you directly. If you haven't already done so, I encourage you to visit the Exaptive exhibit table in the lobby, where you get to play with our maps, but you'll also learn more about the company and the many ways that they foster within and between institution collaborations with these innovative ideas. So please join me in welcoming David King to talk about our maps.
Thanks for having me. You know, this is maybe the integrative medicine way of phrasing this. I'm an engineer by training, and in engineering we have this adage that says, if you measure it, it will improve, which sometimes is good and sometimes is bad. It depends what you measure. But this is sort of the birth of this idea, which is that Helene and Peter, they knew that there was this vibrant community of researchers, but they didn't, it wasn't really being measured in a way that everyone could rally around. And so there was an interest to create some maps, and this is actually a screenshot from the first one we made about 4 years ago. And once they looked at the map, they said, oh, look, this is even sort of, there's more people, there's more interactions than we even knew. Could we get the email addresses of all the people on that map, and why don't we invite them to all get together? And that was actually the birth of the first Integrative Medicine Forum, which I like to think about as kind of, you know, we live in a world now with social networks and virtual networks, but I like to think about this as a physical manifestation of a virtual network, which I think is a really powerful idea. So in the time since then, we've been working to evolve the way that we make these maps, present these maps, and increase the community that we can serve, increase the sort of breadth of the IM community through these maps. Here's an updated version of the research map, and it's sort of beautiful in its complexity, and it allows you to see, as Peter talked about bridging silos, it allows you to see how certain researchers, these are all based on publications, so published researchers, how certain researchers, through their co-authorship, are able to bridge different institutions. And certain hubs, like Ted Kaptchuk right there, which many of you may know, they sort of stand out really beautifully on the map. It also allows you to drill into the specific publications and access those publications in PubMed so that you can actually read what it is that's being published. And then on the left, There's, the Osher team has done a lot of work trying to curate the various modalities. And so you can filter in and just look at a small network of interest, or, for example, mind-body therapy, which are all the red nodes. And so you can go from looking at sort of a cohesive view of all of the different modalities to a very targeted one. And we don't want people to just connect to research. We want people to connect to people. So zooming into a particular person here, you can see that person has one co-author, and you can link out to the Harvard Catalyst page to get some more information about them. So this is a tool that excited a lot of researchers, but we also recognize that the research community was just one facet of the broader IM community. So a couple years later, the focus was on trying to create a similar set of tools for the clinician network. And that's what you're seeing here. And I'll point out a couple things. One, this is a smaller network, which you can just see right away. And that isn't because it necessarily involves a lot less people. That's because this network is built based on academic clinicians that meet some criteria for this map. It's based on them participating and providing their information in this network. So this map can only be as big as the participation of the academic clinicians. So that's a little bit of an appeal if to talk to the Osher Center and to investigate if you meet some of the criteria to be on this map. Please help us expand this. This one is sort of different because it breaks down the sub-institutions affiliated with a given institution, like Brigham and Women's Hospital. And you can see a particular clinician, and the different colors are the different modalities that they work in that particular institution. You can similarly filter over here on the left. So you'll sort of see there's a theme. We've tried to make these maps consistent in terms of the user interface. So if you learn how to use one, you can then apply that to using some of the others. And one thing I think is interesting here is you can get sort of very detailed in terms of the modalities that you're looking at. And that's the goal, is to help people not only understand the clinical space, but also help people connect to particular clinicians that are practicing in a particular area. So this sort of expands the IM community that's serviced, but there's another broader community as these forums have become more popular. And as the Osher Center has worked to really expand its center without walls, the sort of tentacles of that center have included more and more people from a greater diversity of backgrounds and areas. And so for this conference, we put together another map. And this is actually a map of all the conference attendees. When you filled out your Eventbrite information, in the small print, it said, we can use the information you provide in Eventbrite to do something like this. So this is, you guys are the physical manifestation of this network here. And this sort of starts with the Boston-centered nucleus. So these are all the Boston-based research organizations, and then there's lots of people that sort of one-off people that we put into this sort of other local group. And when you click on a particular person in the map, you can actually see their reason for attending and some of their expertise. And it's interesting to look through the various different reasons. Here's someone actually who got quite specific, talking about education, and particularly in the field of low back pain health. And here's somebody else who's doing a poster presentation. So it's really nice to see the sort of diversity of the people who are here and why they're here. And this is the nucleus, as I said. So we can expand out to look at the New England set of organizations. So getting a little bit broader in terms of looking at other universities, not just from Boston, but in the New England area. And then we can sort of zoom out to the next concentric circle, again, of national organizations, of which we have a few. And then the really exciting piece was also to bring in the sort of international circle. And so you can see South Korea and Canada and Italy. And we have this like really fantastic group of people from all over the world that are interested in this. I think that one of the important goals of maps like this is not just to make pretty pictures, but to really try and form important human connection. I am a technologist and I work with technology, but I don't think the role of technology is to automate scientific investigation or human intelligence or creativity. I think its role should be to augment human intelligence and scientific investigation. So we really hope that you will take these tools as something that can augment your own progress in this field, something that can augment your own participation in this conference. And we've set up a booth outside that, this is my colleague Shannon, and so you're welcome to use the tool out there, or you're welcome to use your laptop and go to this URL. We use this cognitive city analogy because I've always liked living in cities, and I feel like the power of a city is that it brings lots of people together in a tight space in a way that leads to network effects and new ideas. And I've always been excited that social networks should have the potential to generate ideas and not just advertising. And I think we don't need, more social networks, but we desperately need cognitive networks and using our technology to build these virtual cognitive cities. If you look at some of these images over to the right, you'll see some unusual pictures of like printing presses made from wine presses and things like this. And that's because in the history of innovation, a lot of the big aha ideas have come from cross-disciplinary pollination. And Shannon can tell you all about some great examples. And what we hope is that through tools like this, you will make some connections that will help create some of those cross-pollination of ideas and aha moments in your own field and across fields. So thank you very much.